I hate to go back to our story of projection, but I sort of have to. One of the big stories that Republicans have been telling for a long time now is Democrats are going to commit fraud when it comes to the election. Democrats are going to send people out to vote twice. Democrats are going to send out people to vote in the names of those who have died. They're going to do all these different things. And of course, none of it happened. But we now have yet another example of a Republican who did just that. And it's a Trump staffer. A former Trump staffer who is running for the New Hampshire House voted in 2 states in 2016. We're going to go through it, but then it's also an important opportunity to clarify things that are actually against the law versus things that are really no big deal that Republicans still say are against the law. Associated Press reports Trump aide seeking New Hampshire House seat voted in 2 states in 2016. A former Trump administration official now running for Congress in New Hampshire voted twice during the 2016 primary election season, potentially violating federal voting law. And of course, leaving him at odds with the Republican Party's focus on so-called election integrity. We're talking about Matt Mowers, or Mowers, a leading Republican primary candidate who wants to unseat Democratic Rep. Chris Pappas. Matt Mowers cast an absentee ballot in New Hampshire's 2016 presidential primary, according to voting records. At the time, he was the director of former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie's presidential campaign. 4 months later, Chris Christie was gone, and Mowers cast another ballot in the New Jersey Republican presidential primary, using his parents' address to re-register in his home state. Is this against the law? It appears to be. Legal experts say his actions could violate a federal law that prohibits voting more than once in any general, special, or primary election that includes casting a ballot in separate jurisdictions. So there are 2 or 3 different stories here. First of all, when Republicans go on and on about voter fraud, they want to make it seem like they're accusing the other side. They seem to have been describing their own actions. It's almost like these Republican allegations end up being confessions. Oh, no, you can't vote for Hillary because she won't be trustworthy with classified information, and she had a private email server. We know how that turned out. And it's the exact same thing here. But what I really want to focus in on, because, listen, we keep catching these Republicans doing this stuff. It's almost not even news that they keep getting caught doing this stuff. Mark Meadows voting, registered in 2 states, all these different things. Important reminder, just because the right says something is illegal doesn't mean it is. And let me give you some examples. Being registered in 2 different states is not against the law, as long as you don't vote in 2 different states. What Mowers did appears to be illegal, but it is not uncommon that people live in one state and are registered there. And then after the primary and before the general, they move to a different state. And then they register there and they legally vote. As long as you didn't vote in both states, just being registered in 2 places is not against the law. And we have to remember that. Secondly, they say, well, dead people voted. Tons of dead people voted. There's no evidence of that. But what sometimes happens is somebody was alive, you vote by mail, absentee, and then you die before the date of the general election. That's not against the law. You haven't done anything wrong. You were alive when you voted. It becomes a clerical issue. Another example, people voted twice. Oftentimes, Republicans will find that someone was registered in 2 places, and they will say this person voted twice. As long as you didn't actually vote twice, you're not doing anything wrong. It's a clerical issue that the old place where you lived hasn't deregistered you. It's important to remember, the mass scale stuff they claim is happening isn't happening. But a lot of the things that happen anecdotally are not actually against the law. Do they actually care that people understand that? Of course not. Of course not. Make sure you are following us on Instagram at David Pakman Show. We'll take a quick break and be back after this with much, much more. One of our sponsors is called Privacy. Privacy is a totally free service that I've been using for years. Privacy lets me create virtual payment cards with one click, and when I use the virtual card, the money is taken out of my bank account. You can create multiple cards, delete them, freeze them, set a spending limit on them. Let's say I'm signing up for a free trial and it requires a credit card. Privacy will autofill a virtual card number, and then after signing up, I can delete that virtual card. So I know I'm not going to be charged again. Something really useful and very practical. Or let's say I'm ordering food over the phone, but I left my wallet somewhere. I don't have my real credit card on me. I can use a virtual card on my Privacy mobile app. But really, the best part is you're not out there exposing your real credit card number, so you're not as susceptible to data breaches and identity theft. Privacy is a totally free service, and you'll get $5 to spend when you go to privacy.com/Pacman. The link is right underneath this video.